both of you stopped acting like clowns and animals, you, Jared, first come up and you write out the ideas. You then write out the ideas. And all of a sudden, we start taking our markers and start moving the ideas around. And the mediator's the whiteboard. We're now compromising. And now here's the fun thing. At the end of our moving around, at the end of the CEO maybe brokering things, at the end of our whiteboarding session, one of us takes out the magic item, a cell phone. We take out our camera app and we take a picture. And when we've taken a picture of that 4-box, which is all our work and our sweat for the last half hour, what is that picture? It's a non-binding contract. Yeah. It's an agreement. So all of a sudden, instead of us just having shouted at each other for an hour, we created an agreement. And for 33 cents, the cost of a dry erase marker, we've created something beautiful, we've avoided conflict, and we made progress.
This is the Brandon Smith Show, and of course I'm your host, Brandon Smith, and the entire purpose of the show is one singular thing, and that is to help you live a life that much more free from dysfunction. And so today, our topic today, we are going to be talking about how do you become a great client partner? So that's a big fancy way of saying, how do we develop the good soft skills needed to not only treat our clients, whoever our customers are, well, and serve them well, but how do we even use those same soft skills when we're working with our leaders, when we're working with our direct reports? Gosh, we could almost call it like, how do you just be a good human being in the workplace?
That'd be okay. That'd be a good title.
That'd be a good title.
A good title.
So to guide us on this journey, I have a good friend of mine from business school and the CEO of 360i, Jared Belsky. Jared.
Yeah, it's great to
really good to have you on here. It's been a little while since I've gotten to see you, and it's been great to have you on. And now part of why we're talking about this today, not only is it something that you and I are both passionate about, but you also are an author who wrote a book on this.
I am a proud author now. Yes, absolutely.
I am as someone who's working on his first book, I am super jealous and really proud of you and admire all the hard work that went into doing that, because it's been hard for me. So let's talk a little bit about, I want to talk about why you wrote the book, but before we jump into that, give just the listeners and viewers just a brief kind of snippet of who you are, kind of what role do you have today, and then and how you got there, and then we can transition into what got you to write this book.
All right, I'll make that tragically short so we're not boring anyone in the audience, but proudly CEO of 360i, which is a nationally known advertising and marketing agency. We have about 1,000 people, offices all over the country, and just some of the best employees and best clients.
So 1,000 people.
1,000 people, that's like the great privilege of the job. That's the best part.
And you know them all by name.
Know every single person by name. Yeah. No, well,
because that's the hardest thing, though. When you get to that level, I mean, I always know that's one of the things the leaders say is, I move up in the ranks. One of the things that becomes really challenging is how do you build those connections with all the people in the organization?
Well, look, you're an expert in this. You know some of the answers, but loosely, there's a few things you try and care about. One is like skip level management. Don't just talk to your C-suite. Get in there, talk to all different levels.
Yeah.
Second is roll up your sleeve. I like to say you got to still remember what the keyboard looks like. You got to do some of your own work. You can't just point and tell others to do it. And the third is people always ask me what's the secret to culture, keeping a company of 1,000 people feeling small. The answer is not tragically complicated. It's like you got to keep caring. You got to keep doing the little things to make it feel like a small entrepreneurial environment, not let it get big and clunky.
On this theme of being a good human being.
Yeah, on the theme of being a good human being.
Okay, so while managing all those offices and 1,000 people, you had at some point recently a spark to write this book.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that. What was it that got you going on this idea?
Sure. So there's the big picture, which is a little bit of just karma, and then I'll explain the real answer. The karma answer is simple. Is I've been pretty lucky to have this job. As reflected, is because I've had just great mentors invest time into me, which let me learn a lot of lessons in a short form and get this job. That's not the interesting answer. Why did I really write this book? There is a mythology out there that has it that to succeed in life and to attain, a leadership position and to sort of win in this world or game we call work, you have to be great and be a master of hard skills, right? If you think about it, society gives accolades and praise for someone who knows how to code, someone who's great at Excel, an engineer, an artist, a copywriter, even a master painter, a master craftsman. Those are all hard skills. You can see them, you can touch them, you can complement them. But then we take what your show's about, right? Soft skills and things like how do you build trust? How do you become an active listener? How do you mediate disputes? How do you persuade? These are soft skills. And we diminish their importance by saying things like, oh, they come naturally. Well, they don't. They don't come naturally. And I believe that the greatest leaders, probably many of the leaders you get to hopefully interview on this awesome show, like they got to where they are because of soft skills, not because of the mastery of hard skills. And I hope this book not only will give people a roadmap to some of those soft skills, but also helps to rile against that myth, which is destructive. I think if people are only masters of hard skills, that is a one-way ticket to middle management.
One-way ticket.
Sorry, that
there's
might sound a little
the soundbite.
aggressive.
There's the soundbite. One-way ticket to middle management. Well, I think, but
mastery
you're true.
alone won't get you there.
So I don't know if you remembered Rick Gilkey from business school. He was one of the professors there, and I've had him on the show a couple of times, and he often quotes one of the pieces of research that he's particularly fond of, that when you study people's careers, IQ only gets you so far.
Love it.
It's EQ that is the differentiator that allows you to continue to go up, because you get to a certain level where everybody's smart. Everybody's smart. Everyone has a high IQ.
Everyone's smart. Everyone's a hard worker.
But the people that can kind of read those social cues, negotiate, adjust how they talk to people based on the situation, that can kind of read the room. It's kind of street smarts. People that have that are going to go further.
Couldn't agree more.
Make more of an impact.
One of my favorite things on that topic was someone said to me, great leaders have the most followers, and the people with the most followers don't make big speeches. They know how to ask questions. They know how to build trust, right? They know how to read people. And so the very thing that creates followership is not mastery and hard skills. It is the mastery and soft skills.
Yeah.
But think about our time in college together. Think about the workforce. 90% of time is focused on instruction on hard skills, and maybe 10%. I would say maximum 10% goes into soft skills.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, the teaching emphasis is inverted to the success sort of metrics.
Yeah.
It's wrong. Everyone's got it wrong. Thank God for your show.
Yeah, well, thanks. Well, I'm not as active teaching just because my life is so full right now, but when I was teaching more actively at Emory, the business school, it's funny, the stuff I teach is all soft skill stuff, right? So it's communication and those kinds of things. Sure. And for the full-time MBAs, they're like, oh, do I have to take this class? It's required.
I remember that.
And then the evening students value it a little bit more. And then when I get into the modular executive MBAs, the average age is 42. They're like, I don't care about statistics. I have smart people that do that. This is the stuff I want to talk about. I can't give them enough because this is the stuff they're dealing with, because they've hit the roadblocks of dealing with clients or politics or influencing or leading across footprints, and it's hard.
So the tragedy or the question then is, in corporate America, why is this so poorly taught or not taught at all, when we all believe that it's the key to unlocking value?
I think it goes back to something you said earlier, and then we got to really get into the book.
My bad.
But I think something you said earlier, which was all the technical stuff, you can see it, touch it, feel it, and measure it. So it's easy to do research on it. It's easy to teach it, right? The soft skill stuff, it's a little harder. It's harder. It's harder to see it and feel it and touch it, and sometimes it can be situational.
Yeah.
Right. And now we're getting into cultural differences. So the way you interact and this will make your job, I would imagine, particularly hard, because you've got footprints, both regional cultural differences as well as global cultural
Very hard,
differences.
but that's probably a whole nother show.
It probably is. Look at you trying to keep us on track. I love it. All right, so let's dive into the book. And do you have, when you think about, and naturally, I want everyone listening here to go buy a copy of your book because they need to. But if we give a little taste, what are maybe the top, 2, 3, 4, 5? You can decide. But what are some of the top traits that make a really great client partner?
Yeah. Let's just go with 3. We'll keep it tight.
3 is good. People remember 3.
So the first one is, I think there's this notion that I mentioned this: great leaders make great speeches. I think it's misleading. I think the best leaders ask the right questions and are fundamentally great listeners. So I think the first trait is great leaders and great client partners are really good at active listening and active questioning. So that's probably number 1.
How did you learn that? What was it for you that
someone taught me the difference of how to ask an effective question, right? Let's make this really real right now. I've got 2 kids. Maybe some of your audiences do, right?
What are their ages?
10 and 12.
Oh,
so
okay.
Abner and Alex. I'll use them as a lens. The most open question I can ask is going to give me a terrible answer, which is, Abner, how was your day, right? It's so open that he doesn't know where to latch onto, and so it's going to get you a very bad response. A closed question, which I can ask my daughter, was, Alex, how was science today? Why is that terrible? I'm giving her a binary out, good or bad, right? So how was your day or how was science today? It's just too open a question or too closed of a question. A great question would be, kids, or just I'll speak to my son on this one, Abner, tell me the top 3 things you learned in earth science today, and why would you rank it that way? And by asking rank and why, I'm forcing him to give me 3 answers. I'm forcing him to put thought into ranking, and I'm essentially getting the answer code. Now let me apply that to 360i in an advertising agency. We show a client 3 pieces of work, right? 3 concepts for the Game of Thrones launch. Instead, the worst open question was, how do you like that? How did it go? Who cares? That's a terrible question. A great question would be, of those 3 ideas, tell me, how would you rank them? Why would you rank them there? And what would be the specific things you would change on each? Now I can take that feedback back to the creative team and actually do something with it. People ask recklessly wasteful questions, and they think they're geniuses. I call them beard scratchers.
Another soundbite. Did you catch that, Isaac? Another great sound. Make a little note of that. That's
specific and diligent in your questions. So be an active listener, be an active questioner.
But I think you're right. I love the idea of reckless and wasteful. Reckless and wasteful questions. I love it because it's so true. And on the flip of that, if you just put a little thought into it, and actually some questions you can use always.
Sure.
So whenever I'm doing, let's say I've been hired for a new engagement.
Yep.
Okay. One of the questions I will always ask on that first call is I'll say, okay, so let's say it's a workshop or speaking engagement, right? So now I'm going to be with a group of people and they want me to teach them soft skills. One of my favorites recently is they said, we've got this group of people come in, they need executive presence.
Okay.
Spend 3 hours with them and give them executive presence.
It's a tall order, Brent. Tall order.
So, and they also said executive presence, right?
Yeah.
Well, you and I are both thinking, oh yeah, we know what that means. But do we know what that means? What exactly does that mean?
Yeah.
So one of my questions I always ask, and I would encourage all the listeners to use some version of this. I say, all right, so let's say we finish the session. Yeah. We're walking out of the room and we say to ourselves, oh my gosh, that was a big success. What would you have wanted to come out of that? What would you have wanted to either see or feel or notice differently?
Great question. You're forcing specifics and you're forcing follow-up and you're getting the answer key.
Yeah. And then now I know what I need to be shooting after. Because you're right, the answer key, then now I got my targets. I can hit that. Otherwise, I'm guessing. And then we run the risk of guessing wrong.
I think this could be a good line of work for you.
I think so.
I do.
And then sometimes I'll ask the other side. I'll say, what would you not want to see?
Oh, what
would be like a disaster?
But either way, what we're both talking about is causing some sort of tension and some sort of next step and some sort of introspection. But those wasteful questions are how did that go? And I think you need a mentor, someone to point out, Sally, that's just not a thoughtful question. You wasted your moment. Don't waste a moment.
Yeah.
Each question's gold. So that was number 1 on the list.
We're going to get to number 2 in a minute. We're getting close to break here.
Fair enough.
But I want to tell you a funny story. So I've got 3 kids. I've got a 17-year-old daughter, Abby, who's been on the show multiple times.
Awesome.
We talk about generational communication differences.
That's great.
And then I've got a 14-year-old son, Noah, and a 12-year-old son, Aaron.
Okay.
And so Abby has learned a little trick, which I'm not sure if this is, I got to give her credit for this, that she's now taught her brothers. That when they get a question from us, okay, so we've asked a question of them, Abby has taught her brothers, she says, respond with 4 sentences and you won't get another question.
Why?
But if you respond with just like a 1-word answer, you're going to get a follow-up question.
She's a genius.
So she's like, give a 4-sentence detailed response and there will not but
if you're okay with her not going to college, 360i is a place for her. She sounds brilliant.
Actually, marketing is where she wants to go. So, but it's really funny. I'm like, it's actually worked. So Noah did it the other day to us. He's the least talkative of the 3.
Okay.
And he did it and there was no follow-up question. Big smile on his face. He's like, Abby taught me that. It outed her. And so last night she was like, yeah, I did. I told him that.
That's awesome.
So we've hit break. So stay tuned. When we come back, we're going to talk more about what does it mean to be a great client partner? What are some of the skills and tools we can put in our toolkit? So when we are in those situations that are kind of make or break in our career, we are fully equipped and ready to take it to the next level. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Here's your coaching minute for the week, presented to you by the Leadership Foundry. Dysfunction in the workplace, it's a pervasive problem. Here's a simple tip to eliminate dysfunction, both in your team, but even in the environments around you. Clarify your team members' roles, goals, and responsibilities. So just spend some time thinking about, does all of my team know? Does each of them know what their role is, what the goals are of the team, and their responsibilities? If the answer is yes, you right there eliminate 50% of all the dysfunction that could come up in your team. If the answer is no, think about how you could do that better. When we don't do that, one of two things happens. Either people overlap work and they step on each other's toes, or you have one person carrying much bigger load while a couple other people are hanging out not doing near as much work. It's one of the big problems in the nonprofit world, is a lack of clarity around roles, goals, and responsibilities. So focus on those three things, and I promise you, not only will you eliminate dysfunction, it's going to make your workplace that much more enjoyable. Welcome back from break. Of course, this is the Brandon Smith Show. And so right before break, Jared was here guiding us through what makes a great client partner. And we talked about kind of the importance of asking good questions.
Sure.
And I think that is so awesome. And it still stuck with me, that phrase you had, that people just ask way too many wasteful and reckless questions. Just put more thought into that. I'm totally stealing that. I love it. It's beautiful. Beautiful. I will quote you, though. Every time I say it, I'll say, my good friend Jared Belsky, CEO of 360i, says this. So that was number one. What's number two?
So I think the number two responsibility, being a great leader, a great partner, is having urgency and a lot of rigor around talent evaluation. Another one of my mentors used to say his only regret when he closed out each year was waiting too long, right? We're good people. We're nurturing leaders. We want to believe we can coach everybody. We want to believe there's great potential in everybody. But the dirty truth is sometimes somebody is just a poor fit for an organization at that moment. That doesn't mean that Sally is stupid or bad. I hate that language. I'm sure you do too. It might just mean that Sally, at that moment in time, at your organization, is a 6. And that's really what's gotten me inspired around this, which is, as a CEO or as a leader, your job is to not let 6s hang around too long.
Okay, so you said 6. So are we put that in a 6 of a scale of 1 to 10?
This gets a little controversial because I hate thinking of people as a number, but that is the mental exercise here. If you took your employees and you kind of ranked them 1 to 10, and again, people are more complex than that. That's not the message. This is a management philosophy discussion, but yeah, if you ranked your employees, not your 1,000 employees 1 to 10, but each employee on a scale of 1 to 10.
10 being good? Or
10 being amazing, 1 being you got to fire him yesterday. A 6 is your problem, and here's why. Right, and my thesis is 6 is cancer in the clubhouse. If you're a sports fan or forget about sports, 6 is just cancer because it eats away your culture and your company, and you don't know it. And here's why. Your 1s, your 2s, your 3s, and your 4s, you let go, hopefully with some compassion, but it's obvious, right? They're a bad fit. They're just not cutting it, and sadly, it's clear. But you let them go right away because you know it. Your 7s, your 8s, your 9s, and your 10s, they're the best. They get titles and comp and rewards because it's obvious.
Yeah.
So what are you left with? 5, 6, 7. That's not going to work. 5, 6, and 7. Your 5s disproportionately start falling off because they're looking up and seeing a 6 as their North Star. So your 5s kick the bucket. Your 7s, who should be doing great because they're looking at 8, 9s, and 10s, they're looking backwards and saying, well, the 6 is okay, so I'll use some of their behaviors, and they start falling off. Now you're left with your 6s. Now here's the last problem. Your 10s start to leave. Why? Your 10s leave because a 10 doesn't want to work for a CEO. A 10 doesn't want to work for a company where it's okay and blessed to be mediocre. So your 6, little Jimmy, who you just let go because guess what? He wasn't so great and he wasn't so terrible. You let it slide because you had to go fundraise and you had to do marketing and you had to, come up with a new product release. So you let Jimmy slide. you've eroded the entirety of your company because you let sixes be okay.
Okay. Wow. Look at that. Another mic drop. You're coming back on the show. All right. So here's the deal. I got a question for you around this.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a tough question.
Yeah.
You had me with this whole analogy. I'm all about it. Now where I'm wrestling with is, what does a six actually look like? Because one of the terms that is often used in the workplace is you've got your high performers and high potentials over here. Yeah. They might be our 8s, 9s, 10s, maybe even some 7s that are high potentials, just not there yet, okay? But then you have another group, and we call that group solid citizens. Okay, solid citizens come in on time, do everything expected of them, and leave on time. Okay? Don't do extra work, don't go above and beyond, don't take initiative, but do all their work and do it well.
Yep.
So is that a 6, or is that different than a 6? What is a 6 as it compares to a solid citizen?
Well, I think it's a great question. You're right. That is complicated, and not everyone can be an all-star. Right. Same in sports, same in theatrical production. Not everyone gets to be the star.
And there is some argument that actually it's good to have some solid citizens, because your high potentials are always pushing for the next thing. And your solid citizens are really good and can create a stable base. If everybody's pushing for the next thing, it can be hard as a leader to know how to manage all those demands.
So I think the denominator to your answer is about the backdrop of the company you're running, right? If you're running a startup and you've got 100 people and enough money only to get you 6 months, every hour is urgent. Every dollar is urgent. I don't think there's room for a single solid citizen in that world.
Oh, that's a good
I've
point.
got 1,000 people, but think about my model. We're an advertising agency, right? Clients hire us to do things presumably they can't do. We help provide leverage for clients, presumably because we're on the cutting edge of digital and social and search and creative. If we're not on the cutting edge, then we're not doing our job as an agency, which means I don't know that we have room for solid citizen. Now, I did work proudly at Coca-Cola, or there's other great companies here in Georgia, like Georgia Pacific. You need a large team, 40, 100,000 people. You need some people to come in, they do their job, they do it well, and they go home. And there's nothing bad about that. I think those companies might have room for solid citizens. 360i doesn't. I don't think a 100-person startup does. So I think your question's awesome, but I would raise it back to you with,
I think your
it
answer's
depends on
better.
the backdrop.
I get points for asking a good question, though. But his answer was better. It was better.
Very generous. generous, always generous.
All right, so, okay, I'm with you. So now we've talked about kind of that idea of making sure that we're really being rigorous and disciplined and attentive to performance and talent and kind of keeping the bar high for everybody.
Yep.
And I think that it goes in the broader idea of client partner, then that's idea of always deliver your best. Even at a micro level, I would say that's true for me. I don't have days that I can mail it in.
Yep.
I mean, back before business school, when I worked for a big company, there were days that I could kind of come in and, not deliver at my very best.
Those days are gone for you.
I can't. Every day I have to bring my A game every single day. There's not a day I can just mail it in. So I think that even applies to us as an individual level. What standard do we hold ourselves to?
Yep.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Where are we? Right around
11.
That. My wife told me. She said to me, "I think you are." What did you say to me, Em? You think I hold myself? I'm too hard on myself? I'm very hard on myself. I don't think I am, but maybe I am. I don't know. So I think there's something to that. Okay, so that's our second.
Yep.
How about our third?
The third's going to be tough in this medium, but let's try it out together. You're wondering.
I'm
the third
curious.
is that I think great leaders, their number one responsibility is to mediate conflict, and instead of just mediating it, i.e., making people not super angry and calming it, to take that conflict and have something wonderful come out of it. But my thesis is just like in a marriage, when people are arguing verbally, argue, all you're doing is waiting to score your next point. You don't accomplish much. My operating thesis has been there are 4 drawings that you can do on a whiteboard and that you can train anyone to do that could mediate any conflict in a business setting. Literally 4 drawings. Given that this is not a drawing medium that we're in, I can describe one as an example.
Beautiful.
One that might even be familiar to part of your audience because it comes sort of from, I think, Franklin Covey, which is this 4-box matrix, right? But let's role play. Let's pretend we're in a high-flying internet startup and you're head of product, and I'm head of marketing, and we're debating what are the most important 10 product advancements for a website, right? You're saying it's A, B, and C, and I'm yelling at you, no, it's E, F, and G. A gifted CEO comes in with a white marker, which is 33 cents, a lot cheaper than marriage counseling or couples counseling. And she goes up to a whiteboard and she draws a 4-box that on the vertical axis has ideas that we can accomplish now, ideas that we can accomplish next. On the vertical axis, small ideas, right, safe singles, and then big ideas, a home run idea. And all of a sudden she goes, both of you stopped acting like clowns and animals. You, Jared, first come up and you write out the ideas. You then write out the ideas. And all of a sudden, we start taking our markers and start moving the ideas around, and the mediator's the whiteboard. We're now compromising. And now here's the fun thing. At the end of our moving around, at the end of the CEO maybe brokering things, at the end of our whiteboarding session, one of us takes out the magic item, a cell phone. We take out our camera app, and we take a picture. And when we've taken a picture of that 4-box, which is all our work and our sweat for the last half hour, what is that picture? It's a non-binding contract.
Yeah.
It's an agreement. So all of a sudden, instead of us just having shouted at each other for an hour, we created an agreement. And for 33 cents, the cost of a dry erase marker, we've created something beautiful, we've avoided conflict, and we made progress. And I think that if people just got up and draw, which is actually the name of the chapter, get up and draw, stop arguing, you can accomplish so much. It's crazy. And 4 drawings, 4 graphs.
I have a client I'm going to be working with at the end of next month, and I am going to use that technique.
I would love nothing more than to see that happen.
That is
awesome.
Beautiful. If we had more time, because we're getting close on time, I would ask you for more of the drawings.
No problem. This has been awesome. This has been great.
I just think everyone's going to have to buy the book. I think that's the solution.
I'm okay with that too.
If they buy the book, they'll see those in there. But I love that because it is so simple, and that's part of the work that I get brought in to do. They'll say, head of product, head of marketing, not getting along. We can't get them to align and collaborate. It's causing a major rift in the senior leadership team. Will you please do some partnership coaching?
Yeah.
Which, given my background as a therapist, is couples counseling.
Right.
I mean, that's what I'm doing. And while there is a time and place for that, if there's true kind of personality conflicts,
100%.
I think when it really is about ideas, that's your path is so beautiful. I love it. I love it. Okay, well, as we get close to the end, I ask every one of my guests this question: what's one life hack you have for us that can help us live a life that much more free from dysfunction?
Sure. Especially in the workplace, be brave and ask for help. My 1 second story is I think I was like 22 or 23 working at a big agency in New York. And for whatever reason, our president at the time, who went on to be a mentor for me, Jim Warner, he made a choice to sit out in the open in a bullpen, not in an office. Well, that was his funeral. So I went up to him and I said, Jim, do you eat breakfast? And he kind of looks up and he goes, yeah, I eat breakfast. And I go, great, I'm going to take you out once a quarter and pick your brain on life and business and industry. And he didn't know what to say, and he kind of said yes. And I went on to take him out for breakfast once a quarter, or pizza, or whatever it was. He ended up actually being at my wife in our wedding, and was such an important mentor. But the point of that is that those breakfasts, those lunches turbocharged my career, but it wouldn't have happened if I was shy and was assuming, oh, Jim's scary, he's too busy for me. My best advice for the 21 to 29-year-olds in the workforce is don't eat alone, find someone smart, take them out, pick their brain. People like us, all we want is to be relevant and to give advice and to help. And I wish that people would ask for help.
You know what? I think I could sum up everything that you've brought us today with these 3 words, and they all begin with the letter C: courage, clarity, and curiosity.
I'll steal that.
I think that's, everything you talked about with them. Now, the last one was courage, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But then getting
100%.
curious, all about the asking questions, driving clarity about performance and the 6s,
Totally.
and even using the whiteboard for that. I love it. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Jared, awesome. If people want to get a copy of this incredible book, and if they want to learn more about you, where can they go?
Yeah, real simple. It's sold on Amazon, so just look it up, The Great Client Partner. And if you want to learn a little bid more about me or the website, it's www.thegreatclientpartner.com, or find me on LinkedIn. Really
Jared,
responsive.
Jared.
Yep.
Belsky.
Jared.
Belsky.
Yep.
Okay.
You got it.
All right. Awesome.
And just enjoyed it. It was awesome.
Yeah, this was
Just when I shake your hand, I don't know. Does that seem too formal?
No, we can
we do
shake
it?
hands. Absolutely. Okay, so as we're kind of wrapping up the show, this is always the part of the show that I butcher. So Isaac has helped me. He's trying to.
Okay.
He's like, Brandon, you need some help on this. So this is our wrap up. So catch a new show every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. on iTunes, thebrandonsmithshow.com, and of course Facebook.com/Brandon Smith WPT for Workplace Therapist. And if you haven't checked out The Workplace Therapist recently, check it out, because that's where you can find not only old episodes of the show that are always fresh and evergreen, so they're not that old, but also articles, blogs, all resources there to help you. And if you've enjoyed today's show, and we certainly hope you have, please rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. That's how more people find us, so we can grow our tribe fighting workplace dysfunction. And so until the next show, have an awesome week and a great life.